Hi everyone, this is Vicky McClifty from AM Healing My Soul TV, and today I'm speaking with Steve Morrison, who is director and founder of Oh My Grief. Hi Steve, how are you today?
Hi Vicky, great, thanks. Nice chatting.
This is all about helping people in grief, that are stuck in grief and that want to move forward in their lives. And I know from your background, Steve, you deal with a lot of people who are stuck in grief. And I just wondered if you could explain to everyone like what you're doing now and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, sure. So it was about just over a year ago I launched Oh My Grief. And I guess it was an answer for me personally, Vicky, in that I had experienced a lot of different versions of grief throughout my life, and then went on to study, and currently I'm doing a doctorate looking at the impact of faith and grief and the relationship between that.
Yep.
And so that was sort of my academics. And then I had, I'm a funeral celebrant as well. So I've conducted well over 1,000 funerals. I've majored in children, homicides and suicides. So really intense sort of moments.
Yeah.
I get to work with people right at that point when they're just, they can't get out of bed and everyone make a decision on what the future is going to look like. And so I like to be creative and work with them. And so that was sort of, going on. I'd been a pastor for 24 years, or have been now for 24 years. So my whole life's been with people, but somehow I ended up this space of just continually working with people in grief. It was the last thing I went looking for. I often laugh about it because I'm an extrovert, I'm the life of the party. I'm happy. I love life. And yet I work in these environments that are often the extreme opposite. And I always just laugh about that and think, well, maybe my personality is required at times.
Yeah, that's right.
But it probably all began when I was 15. I had a friend, we played music together. We had a jazz quartet. I was a trumpeter. He was a piano player. We had a bass player and a drummer. And we were really good. We used to win at Stedfords, and it was our thing, Every lunchtime we'd practice and hang out together. And so I was in a youth group, and I invited Simon to come that night, and he was coming to our place for dinner at 6, and then we're going to go to youth group at 7. And we're going to play music together, actually. That's why he was coming. And then he arrived, and I just figured, I was in those days, there was no mobiles or anything. Yeah. So we just something had come up and whatever. Anyway, I went to school the next day and found out that Simon had taken his own life. And it was a couple of months before that I had found him. He had slashed his wrist, actually, but he survived that.
Yeah.
And just tried to love on him and help him. But I just remember, I can look back now, and I'm 47, so I was 15 when that happened, 32 years ago. I can remember it like it was yesterday, and I remember no one talking about it.
Yeah.
It was one thing that stuck out. No one talked to me. No one sat us down and said, hey, this is what's going on. I remember the funeral. I've never been to a funeral. I was, 15, never been. I remember the coffin. I remember this silver name badge on the coffin. I couldn't get my head around that. Yeah. All these things that now I'm in the industry and I deal with all the time. But at 15, it was silent. And you went back to school. In fact, I went to school the morning of the funeral. We went to the funeral and I went back to school. And that was it. Get on with life. Yeah. And I've just never forgotten it. I've never forgotten the experience. I've never forgotten the pain associated with it. And it began a journey that I didn't see happening. But when I look back now, 30 years later, I can see that somehow I've just been drawn and led into this place of walking into trauma, really. So I did a master's degree, and then did a postgraduate in grief, loss and trauma counselling, and tried to upskill myself in that area and just keep working with people, loving people, and their stories. And so that's how Oh My Grief came about. So every Wednesday night, I release a post, just a 500-600 word post about something that's going on, just to encourage people.
That's good.
And then every Sunday night, I release about a 5-minute video, and I just talk about, again, something that's happening in my life, or someone that I've met, or some area of grief. And it can be anything from the power of going for a walk outside to, how to deal with an immediate trauma or something going on. So that's where I am today. And
wow. But going back to, do you think you did grieve at the time, Steve?
No.
Yeah.
I haven't had any idea what it meant or how you did it. Or, I still believe Australia is very much a death denying society.
Yeah.
We don't talk about it. We don't go there. And my parents, my mum's 80, my dad's 79. And it wasn't until about a year ago I could even get them to talk to me about what their wishes are, when they die. And it's like, oh, we don't want to talk about that, and
yeah, there's a
lot of
fear.
that continued on, and
Yeah.
so go back 30 years ago, you went to school.
Yeah.
Get yourself together and go to school. I mean, schools now have counsellors and social workers and chaplains, and I think it's a totally different environment.
Yeah.
Whether they zero in on grief per se, I'm not sure, but you can, certainly access support.
Yeah.
I don't know of anywhere that specialises just in the grief area. I'm sure there is. There's things like the Seasons programs and different things that are out there. So I think we're doing a whole lot better.
Yeah.
I don't think it's changed the generalisation of a death-denying society in which we...
Yeah, there's still a lot of fear around it, isn't there?
Sure.
Death. Yeah. Whereas it's really a part of life. It's...
Yeah.
We're all going
I often say that. I say a significant part of life is death.
Yeah.
But it, as you know, it can be horrible. It can be so paralysing and so painful, and not just the death of a loved one, but illnesses and divorce and relationship breakdown and job loss and crises of your identity and who am I and how do I exist and how do I put this together? And the tagline of Oh My Grief that I wrote was live well with grief. And this whole idea of grief is never going to go away. You're not going to wake up one day and go, oh, I don't miss that person anymore. Of course that's not reality. But for me, it's like, but how can you live well despite the grief?
Yeah.
Or with the grief?
Yeah, because it makes you who you are, doesn't it? I mean, if you're having all of these experiences, it'll either, some people it'll make them, and some people it will break them because they just don't know how to cope with dealing with these stresses that happen in their life.
Yeah, completely true. And I think the research really proves that as well. Around the world is this almost, grief is extremes anyway, extreme pain, extreme joy, extreme loss, extreme everything. And I think there's extremes in the way people come through it. And, unfortunately, some people are stuck forever. Oh, that's the point. And that's the point of reference where everything changed.
Yeah.
And you can date it. You can plot exactly when it happened. And, it's an interesting thing because even talking like this, we're both happy today and we're made it and whatever else. And, but the reality is we live and deal with some really painful, horrible stuff.
Oh, you do. And I think you've got to, I mean, for me, there was a point that I thought I had to choose. You have to choose whether you want to stay stuck there or whether you want to make something out of it and move on, move forward. Not so much without them there, but just, it makes you stronger if you're willing to just put in the effort to be grateful, I think, too. I believe gratitude is a huge thing in our lives. Just being grateful for what we do have and the time that we've got here, because life is precious and it's very fragile.
Very fragile.
Yeah.
And I guess being in the funeral industry, I've had weeks where I've buried an 102-year-old and then the next day I, did a funeral for a stillborn. I mean, and everything in between. Yeah. And unfortunately, we have this, I think we have a picture in our mind, Vicky, that says life is a clock and the hands just continue to go around.
Yeah.
But really life's a sand, one of those sand timers.
Yeah.
And there's only a certain amount of grains in it.
Yeah.
And it runs out.
Yeah.
But we don't have that image, do we? We have this image of this continuous existence.
You live in denial that it's, you see it around you, but a lot of people will live in denial that and I mean, it's hard to fathom that you're going to be dead one day.
Yeah.
But then what happens after death? So that's always, because where a lot of people are unaware of it, then, there's that fear that it's all going to end. I know I grew up in a family that my father was extremely scientific, and he believed that you lived and you died and then nothing happened afterwards. It was just, you're here one day, gone the next, and make the most of it because, that's the end. And you think, oh, really? Like there's nothing else?
Yeah. And yet, you know, if we grew up in the eastern part of the world, we would have a complete different philosophy on it. And
That's right.
you know, we certainly in Australia, we grow up with everything's about the natural, and maybe, but maybe not, there's a spiritual. But in Eastern societies, they grow up with the spiritual's far more real.
Yes.
Than the practical, than the, you know, the now, the physical. And it's fascinating. I guess that's one of the things I've loved with travel. You know, I've been to India 5 times and South Africa and all different places. And I love the culture and the understanding and the broadening of experiencing what people know and have experienced and having that there. So, yeah, grief is, boy, it's a horrible monster.
It is. It is.
Yeah, it can be the projection. It can be the catalyst for a life change that you never dreamt possible. I remember when you and I met, Vicky, that part of your story is you could never imagine doing what you're doing now.
Yeah.
You weren't this up front, in front of the camera.
Yeah, I know.
Person. And you've stepped into a destiny that's yours, and you're thriving in it.
Yeah.
And really, thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
You know, in not thank you, Adam, for leaving and dying and all that. No, but for the gifts that he's left and given, and who you've become now is remarkable.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a gift that you've got, and so I guess for me, you know, as I said, you got us on good days. I've you know, man, I've been through the cancer journey. I've faced death and blindness, and you know, I've been in the industry for 24 years and I've just had a year out on sick leave. So I've gone through this whole, where's my identity and who am I? And the grief associated with people you've been with all your life that are no longer there. And your phone doesn't ring. And hello, I'm not dead. But you feel it. And it's this incredible loss where you go, I didn't see this happening. But in it, I keep on going, I wonder who I can become.
Yeah, there's always a lesson in it. There's always a lesson in it, isn't there?
Yeah, who will Steve be in 5 years' time? In 5 months' time?
Yeah.
Crossroad came that he never wanted, that he's hated most of. And yet there's such a optimism of a better future.
There is, and I think that it's being open-minded to just whatever comes along. And I know from my own experience that what I'm doing now is something, as you said, it was not envisaged at all. And, you know, I was a quiet little person in my house, a mum raising 5 kids, just doing the normal things that we mums do and working a part-time job and thinking, you know, this is it.
Yeah.
And then my whole life was turned upside down and going through the whole process. And then I think watching so many people around me suffering from grief in some sort of form. And I thought, this is crazy. We don't need to live our lives like this. You know, you don't have to be sad all the time.
Yeah. Give yourself permission to laugh again, to be okay, to heal, to become whole.
Yeah.
It's this whole, but if I do that, I'm disrespecting my loved one who's died. And I think it's the exact opposite. And I tell the story that, you know, I've probably sat with, I don't think 100, but maybe close to 100 people over 24 years of pastoring in a hospital or in a home that are dying. And I'm there when they die many times.
Yeah.
And I tell the story that not once have I heard anybody on their deathbed say to their loved ones, stay stuck in grief.
Yeah.
Don't enjoy life. Don't go outside. Don't ever travel again. Don't listen to our favourite song. I've never heard that. For some reason we get in this place of, but I can't.